Have you ever felt like giving up, quitting, throwing in the towel? Welcome to Never Ever Give Up Hope featuring Carol Graham. She's an author, health coach, and motivational speaker. Backed into a corner multiple times in her life, Carol shares with you stories on how she overcame some of the toughest obstacles a person can go through in life, but refused to give up hope. Rather than admit defeat, an opportunity was presented, and it involves each and every one of you. Carol will feature spectacular guests who will share their messages of hope, encouragement, and their inspiration to prove why life's adversities only make you stronger. And now, welcoming the host of the show, here's Carol Graham.
Welcome to Never Ever Give Up Hope. Never Ever Give Up Hope is a show about people who have done that, who've done just that. They never gave up, no matter what. Even if there was only a thread of hope to hold on to, they held on. And many of my guests have survived incredible circumstances. As a result, they have a passion to help others. Each and every guest who has overcome insurmountable circumstances reaches out to help somebody else. And that's what's so exciting about this show. Some of them have survived extreme poverty or abuse or depression or disease in many different arenas, but they all fought to survive and they won. This show gives them the opportunity to share their stories and gives us tips and encouragement on not only how to survive, but to thrive. Never Ever Give Up Hope is now heard in over 140 countries, and we still maintain the #1 rank on Google searches for the subject of hope. What that tells me is that it doesn't matter where we are in the world. People are looking for a message, something that they can hold on to, somebody who possibly has walked down or walked in their shoes at some point and they can relate with. So I am so thankful to have that platform. And I thank each of my guests and especially my listeners, because without you guys, we wouldn't have a show. With me today, I have a very special guest. All my guests are, of course, special, but the ones that I know personally just give me one of those warm moments. And my guest today is one of those people who I have had the privilege of meeting and having a relationship with. Hix Jones is the host and executive producer of the UplifTV documentary series, The Experience. He's also producer of Hoarders, and as a media professional also worked on Extreme Makeover, Home Edition, and Ice Road Truckers. Jay and his wife Kara co-authored the book The Experience, 40 Days to Reconnecting Your Soul. What an awesome title. Together, they operate the film production company Hungry Fish Media with Dr. Charles Hix. And we'll talk more about these things throughout his interview. I love my guest stories because they bring encouragement to our listeners. And Jay, as I mentioned, is a guest I have a personal connection with. 2 years ago, he asked to be on Never Ever Give Up Hope. And shortly afterwards, his life took a dramatic turn. His 4-year-old daughter, Hunter Rose, was diagnosed with stage 4 cancer. That relationship that Jay and I had turned to friendship, and I have been privileged to be able to follow this family's incredible journey dealing with pediatric cancer. We will talk about that throughout the show, but right now, welcome Jay.
Hey, thank you. What a great introduction. So honored to be a guest. Thank you so much for having me, Carol.
Oh, you bet. It's been a long time coming.
Yeah.
So before we share Hunter's story and how that changed your life literally. Tell us a little bit about you. How did you get interested in the media business?
Well, I've been interested in media ever since I can remember. A toddler, sitting on my grandmother's couch, watching her favorite shows. But it really wasn't until much later in life that, I came to figure out that I could actually take what I was passionate about and make it a living. And that's what I did. It took me a long time to figure that out. When I finally decided, I may be able to do this for a living, I was 27 years old. So up until that point, media was just, a hobby and a passion, something that I watched on TV or went to the movie theater to see and be involved with. At 27, I had a string of unfortunate events in my life that made me kind of look at my life and where it was going and really decided at that point to take a leap and dive into the media world. And that's when I went back to college, graduated with a Associates of Arts degree in film and video production from Full Sail University in Winter Park, Florida.
So you were focused. You knew what you wanted to do at that point, and you went for it.
Well, at that point, yes. But again, it had taken me a long time. I was never interested in school, never thought, I'm never going to use anything that I'm being taught in the real world. But once I figured out, hey, this is what my calling is, this is what, I want to do with my life, then I became super focused. And all of a sudden, I was the older guy sitting up front in the classroom, asking all the questions. And I did really well once, I made that decision to be focused. I graduated as the Advanced Achievement Award recipient of my class, and everything just kind of took off from there.
What was your first gig?
My first gig? Oh my gosh, are you really going to make me talk about this?
Okay, we'll just back that up.
No, it's good. It's good. It's a fun. I had all these aspirations of being a film director. I don't know if, unfortunately or fortunately, I ended up taking an internship with the Jerry Springer Show right out of film school.
Are you kidding me? Oh, my word.
I'm not. I don't know what prompted me to do that. It was the first offer that I received, and I was just so eager to get going. I accepted it, and, within a matter of months, I was in Chicago interning for Jerry.
Was that a good thing?
Well, it was. It was, the first taste of the industry after school. Jerry was super cool. He would walk around the office playing a guitar, smoking a cigar. He was very personable, and I was just kind of thrown into the TV production world. So it was a great experience.
And that probably was a very good experience in that respect, right? It something a little out of the norm.
It was definitely out of the norm. I don't share that very often. That was my first gig, but I guess the world will know now.
Okay. Can't be a secret.
Yeah.
Well, you've been involved with the media on various platforms in your career. And one of the things that you said in your bio that I appreciated, and I'd like you to expound on, is how much influence does the media have on us, our lives, our emotions, and as you said, even our belief systems?
Quite a bit of an impact on our lives. I can share that with you because I know, as a producer of the media that people watch, unfortunately, a lot of the content isn't positive. I don't know how else to say that.
Exactly.
I was at one point a producer that was also a manipulator. Thank gosh, that's not what I do now. But most producers manipulate the audiences to feel a certain way, to buy a certain product, right? So, yeah, the media has a tremendous amount of power over every aspect of our lives, from the time that we spend watching it because we're addicted to that Netflix show, or to the emotions that the content makes us feel. And, emotions can impact a lot of your life, not just, in the moment that you're having the emotions, but they affect your thoughts. And then those thoughts can turn into actions that, aren't necessarily a good thing. So yeah, you definitely need to guard your eyes and your mind and your soul to the content that you're watching.
And one of the things that I'm sure that you're very aware of and that the rest of the world is becoming aware of is what Disney is doing to grab the minds of children and influence them in some very negative ways.
Yeah, well, unfortunately, it's not just limited to Disney. All of the big companies,
Really?
you produce, content for kids that really shouldn't be for kids. So it's a scary time. It's an exciting time because there's so many platforms and opportunities for producers. It's not just the big studios that can put out content now. Pretty much everyone has access to an affordable camera and a platform to get out their content. But yeah, it's
do you see any change coming one way or the other?
Well, yeah, the old media model, especially for television, is definitely on its way out. With the VOD platforms, video on demand, like Netflix and Amazon Prime, and now Disney's jumping into it. They have their own video on demand platform,
right?
And Discovery Channel, and all of them are launching that. And the reason they're doing that is because commercials and advertisements in the traditional way no longer work. Now you can skip those. So the big guys are having to come up with different models in order to successful financially.
So how do they get paid?
Well, the way I see it is the models is changing this way. So this has been a part of the model for a while, but I think it's shifting to more of the main way that producers are getting paid, and that's product integration. So instead of taking a commercial break from the content to watch a product, say a Ford truck commercial, you'll actually see the talent and the actors driving the Ford truck. So it's integrating the products into the content as opposed to taking a break to watch commercials. Does that make sense?
Yes.
That's always been in existence, right? I mean, you always had product integration, but it's now becoming more important because no one wants to sit through a traditional commercial. So companies and producers are trying to find creative ways to integrate those products into the content.
Interesting. Tell us about Hungry Fish Media. Whatever you want to share.
Like I touched on a minute ago, I used to be one of those producers who manipulated the content for all kind of reasons. And I got to a point where I just didn't feel right about that. And it's hard once you get to that point where, you don't really want to do that anymore. It's hard to find gigs and companies that align themselves along that way. What really launched Hungry Fish Media, I was in a production company meeting for a TV show that I'm not going to name, but I'm a Christian. There's not very many of us in the traditional media world. And I was in a production company meeting, pre-production meeting for this show, and I was warned to stay away from this one host that I would be working with for the first time because of her Christian beliefs. And that really just shocked me to my core for a number of reasons. One, I knew this executive on a personal level, and here she didn't know that I was a Christian. So that was on one level that made me kind of take a step back and look at my life and reevaluate my life. Did close friends and colleagues know what my beliefs were? So that was a no. And then secondly, why is an executive, a media executive, warning me to keep my distance from a Christian?
Interesting.
So that really made me kind of take a step back and look at all areas of my life, especially the media that I was producing. And so I decided, along with my wife and cousin, Dr. Charles Hix, to launch Hungry Fish Media, where we would, produce content and stories that were uplifting and inspirational in a way that, I just hadn't really been fulfilled with in my career up until that point.
Don't you think, when I asked you that question about where do you see it, going, but don't you think that a good portion of the world at large is looking for better content, is looking for a cleaner content?
1,000%. Yeah. So what I was speaking about earlier is basically the business model. But yes, what audiences are thirsting for and craving is good family quality content. Authentic stories is what they're looking for. And because of that, companies are now actually taking notice. So there's a huge shift with the major studios as well right now. Pretty much every major studio now has a faith-based division. I don't know if you know that or not, but
No.
that's huge. So a lot of the big movie studios are now also producing faith-based movies.
And how is that being received?
It's being received pretty well. I think Christian audiences enjoy it because, they haven't really been able to see a big, I don't want to say blockbuster, but big budgeted faith-based film, right? Because before the big studios got in, there just wasn't a lot of funding for those type of films. So now the quality of the faith-based movies is being raised because these studios are jumping in with
excellent,
with a lot of money.
Yes.
Non-Christian audiences are loving these movies as well because they're not so judgmental and in your face. It's sort of watered down Christianity. They don't dive too deep into it, but you get the stories, and all audiences are really loving these. I mean, I think the biggest criticism probably comes from the Christian audiences that they don't dive deeper into the faith.
I suppose another word to use in lieu of Christian would be wholesome. They're more of a wholesome, family-orientated programming,
that's
right?
actually better. Yeah, I think that's a better description of the content. Yeah.
So tell us about your new Uplift TV show, The Experience. I know that this is very dear to your heart for many reasons. So share a little bit about what that's all about. And I know your book has come out of that, the show, and your own personal experiences.
It's really the first big project from Hungry Fish Media. And wow, there's a lot of challenges in producing your own series. Independently, it's rewarding, but man, so many challenges, so much learning that has happened over the last couple of years. I'll tell you why we created the series. It was really because people just need to, we get distracted in our everyday life, right? There's so many distractions from TV and your phone and social media. And a lot of times we get distracted from what really matters most in life. If you're not aware of that, it's hard to deal with certain situations. So I thought it would be great to create a series where we kind of get out in the wilderness, with leave the distractions at home to where people can really just kind of focus on themselves and what they're going through and just to help people heal a little bit better than normal. Here's what we do on the show. We take people who are going through all different types of life situations and challenges, and we take them out into the Pacific Northwest wilderness to kind of get them away from the distractions. And we bring in guest mentors to help kind of walk the participants through the healing process.
Real life drama.
Yes. Yeah. And to be honest with you, I think part of the reason that I wanted to do this show so bad is because I needed that myself.
Right.
Yeah, seriously. So I always say each episode, I got out just as much, if not more, than the actual participant.
And are you continuing to do that? Like, is it an ongoing?
Well, when we first started the series, when we were in production of the series, is when my daughter was diagnosed with stage 4 cancer. And I know we'll get into that in a little bit. So that really threw a huge wrench into production plans, post-production plans, launching plans. I mean, when something like that happens to your family, talking about stage 4 cancer, it's such a challenge. It's hard to.
Your life stops.
It really does. And so, that was the summer of 2017 when we were in production of that series, and it just came out like a month ago.
Oh my goodness!
It took us that long. I would stay up, during the day with Hunter Rose, my daughter, in the hospital, and at night, I would bring my desktop computer and I would edit the show at night in the hospital room, and that's basically how we got through it. I mean. And it took us that long to finally get it to air. And the first episode just premiered on UplifTV, about a month ago.
And how can people connect with UplifTV?
Well, unfortunately, UplifTV is no longer in existence. It's so unfortunate because they were one of the good guys. It was a family-friendly channel. I mean, it's such a tough business for the faith-based models. Now, they do have a parent company called Parables TV, and that's an online, family-friendly video-on-demand platform similar to Netflix.
Okay. So anybody can connect with that?
Yes, Parables TV.
So give us a little more information about that, on how to connect.
Well, our show's not up there just yet.
Okay.
We're finishing up the other episodes. And so as soon as we completely finish the other 2 episodes in the next couple of weeks, then you'll be able to watch all of them on Parables TV.
Parables TV, okay.
Yes.
Okay. Now, is there anything else before we switched gears here that you want to share about any experience or whatever with regarding the media business and your own career?
Well, I would just say, not just dealing with the media business, but, for the listeners out there, if they have a passion that they're not pursuing as a career, a lot of times the passions that you have end up being the gift that God has blessed you with. It's my belief that we're to use those gifts. So I would encourage people to really dive deep into their passionate about and figure out why you're on planet Earth.
Good.
Then go after it with all your heart.
Absolutely. I totally agree. Now, your message of hope. Let's switch gears to your precious daughter, Hunter Rose. Tell us about the diagnosis. Let's start there and what that did to you initially.
Well, she was diagnosed with stage 4 neuroblastoma September 22nd of 2017. And to be honest with you, it was a little bit like an out of body experience when we were sitting in the doctor's office when we got the news. The way she was diagnosed is pretty interesting. So her dentist, just at a regular 6-month checkup, found a tumor in a panoramic X-ray. So listeners, take your kids to the dentist. We credit them a lot for helping save her life, because if they wouldn't have found it, then another couple of months,
of course, yeah.
Who knows? Yeah. Once the dentist found that, we were able to get in to see Seattle Children's pretty quickly. From there, it just took off. Within a couple of weeks, we were in the hospital getting chemo. But it was a very serious diagnosis. Stage 4. She was 4 years old. When something like that hits you, it's literally like a bomb that just goes off. Luckily, both me and my wife and our family have tremendous faith, and I can't imagine having gone through that without. I mean, without our faith, our marriage wouldn't have made it. We wouldn't have made it. Hunter Rose might not have made it. Like it made all the difference in the world. We were still like scared to death. The fear was so thick. We had faith and we believed. We were still just completely scared out of our mind.
You were in a battle.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Biggest battle of our lives.
I mean, not only a physical battle, but a mental battle as well.
Oh yeah, as someone of that has a lot. I consider myself to be a very spiritual and have a tremendous amount of faith. But the battle inside is you want to get angry and ask why, and you kind of go back and forth with yourself. Being angry at God and asking those tough why questions. But at the same time, we had to remind ourselves constantly of who's in charge.
In the preliminary stages, I mean, that was probably the greatest struggle, correct? Because you didn't have a clue if there was going to be any improvement. And how many days did she spend in the hospital that you were struggling with this?
Wow. Well, I think she ended up spending this is just a guesstimate. My wife is way better with this kind of stuff, but I would say just like around 150 days in the hospital.
Wow.
And she ended up having 5 rounds of chemo, 2 tumor removal surgeries, 12 rounds of radiation, 2 stem cell transplants, 6 months of immunotherapy, hundreds of blood transfusions and platelet transfusions, and she's currently enrolled in a cancer vaccine trial in New York. So once she finished her treatment last January at Seattle Children's, we enrolled her in a cancer vaccine trial at Sloan Kettering Hospital in New York. And so every couple of months, we've had to travel to New York to get the vaccine, and she gets her last vaccine shot next month. The trial will be over next month. So we're really looking forward to that.
And why do they have to do it more than once?
Just to help build up her immune system.
And so how long has she's cancer-free now?
I don't think we use the term cancer-free. I think we have to be a little further out than that. But
okay.
what we say is right now there's no evidence of disease. I mean, I guess that kind of means the same thing. Each year, the percentage of it coming back goes down.
I see. And
Yeah.
how was she through this whole thing?
She was amazing. She really was amazing. So I gotta be careful or I will tear up. I don't know if most of your guests tear up when they're
yes.
So before this, my grandfather was my hero. World War II, prisoner of war, deacon in the church, like just a solid dude and such a great example. He was and still is my hero, but my little Hunter Rose is definitely in the number one spot now. She was so strong. She ended up being, she was only 4 going through this. She ended up being up on the marathon board. So all through treatment, she would walk around the hospital, and every mile that the patients walk, they get a little foot sticker to put on their door. And during her treatment, she walked an entire marathon.
Oh, my word.
At the time, she was the only little girl up on the marathon board. She was super strong. I believe part of the reason that she was so strong was because, me and Carol were so strong.
Right.
I really believe that played a part. Most families, one parent will take a leave of absence from work to be there for their kid. We weren't in this really amazing place financially. I really didn't work as well.
Wow.
So Carol took a leave of absence. I didn't work hardly at all during the treatment, and we were there together as a family. And I think that really helped her as well, having both of us there. And again, it was a huge challenge financially. I mean, we spent our savings, we're still dealing with that. We're broke.
Would you do it again?
In a heartbeat. Yes,
right,
absolutely. Right. Yeah. I mean, we had support from friends and family, and our church community rallied around us. And, but yes, I would do it again, even though it completely broke us. It was, one of the things that was needed for us to get through this. And again, and it might be selfish, but I needed to be there for her as well, for me.
I couldn't imagine using the word selfish in that context. You were giving. You were sacrificing.
I was. But, a lot of fathers, most fathers have to go to work. I can't imagine. I mean, that would be so difficult for me to not been able to
have been there.
Yeah. I wouldn't have been able to do it. I would not have been able to do that. So hats off to other fathers that are able to do that. And I wouldn't have been able to do it. I mean, I'm still a wreck. Look at me now.
But your words are encouragement to someone who may be going through something like this. And I appreciate that. And I hope that does encourage somebody who may be wondering what they can do and how they want that communication. They want that connection with their child who's going through this. And as you said, you took the plunge. You went literally over the edge to be there, sacrificing many other things in your life, your career, your job, your finances, so that what happens in the end is, as you just said, you would do it in a heartbeat again. What's going to come of this is all going to be positive. There is no negative thing here. It's going to be a positive experience for each one involved, including those whose lives you touched along the way.
Yeah, it was difficult to see other families and single moms going through this.
Yes.
With their daughters. That really, really broke mine and Kara's heart, seeing stuff like that. I mean, we were so fortunate. It was very tough on our marriage. I mean, when you ask me what was the toughest part, looking back now, I would say right now is the toughest part. When you're going through it, at least for us, we were in survival mode. We didn't really have a lot of time to process what it was we were going through. You just had to put one foot in front of the other. And now that we're kind of through the toughest part of treatment, now it just all hits you. It just hits you like a bomb. And now you have time to process what it is that you're going through. And, to some degree, we have a little bit of PTSD. It's tough. It's tough to process and handle, what it was that I always say it's a family diagnosis. It wasn't just our daughter that went through it. We also have an older son. He's 8 now. He had to spend a lot of time and a lot of nights with his aunt and uncle and grandparents. And, he didn't see us. Sometimes we were in the hospital for 30 days at a time. And, we would come home, but we were at the hospital more than we were home with him. And I have this one picture of him waiting for us to come home. And he's hanging out of his bedroom window.
Aww.
just waiting and waiting for us to come home. And so, it was definitely challenging for the entire family, especially on our marriage. She would be in the hospital inpatient for a week at a time for treatment, and then we'd get to be home for a week or two. When we were home for a week or two, it just wasn't back to normal. She had a feeding tube. She couldn't swallow. We had to do dressing changes. So she still needed care 24 hours. So my wife, Kara, slept with Hunter, and I slept with Reader. So me and my wife didn't even sleep in the same bed for 18 months. And that's very challenging on a marriage. We're lucky that it survived. A lot of marriages don't survive trauma like that.
And it was a young marriage too.
Well, we've been married almost 12 years. But I guess you could say that's young. Just depends on who you're comparing that to.
Well, I've been married 48 years.
So. Well, then that's a long marriage then, isn't it?
Okay.
Me and Kara were just talking about this. She reminded me that yesterday was the 15-year anniversary of our first date.
Aw.
I'll tell you what, just real quick before we move on, I just want to say how strong. It's so hard to say without tearing up, but my wife was really the backbone of our family through the treatment. She was so strong.
You don't know your strengths, do you, until you go through something like that?
Oh yeah, have no idea. And it's funny for me to say this, and I'm not even sure if I can articulate it, and I would never wish any type of cancer on anyone, but part of me thanks God for what we went through. It's just so hard to explain that, because people are going to think, what, you're crazy, but
not at all, Jay, and I'll tell you why. Almost every one of my guests, including myself, who have gone through horrendous trauma in their lives, when they look back from the other side, they all say, it made me who I am.
Wow.
And for that, I'm glad I endured it. And so that is not unusual at all. It's not that, I know what you're trying to say. You don't want to say, well, I'm glad I went through this, blah. Oh, it was a great time, wonderful experience. No, not at all. It's who you have become as a result. It's not the experience as much as it is the change in you. And this change will grow, it will develop, and you will become stronger, not only for yourself and your family, but for others. And even in the media business as you're in, this is going to be part and parcel to what you're going to do in the future. I definitely believe that. And because a lot of people can't make it, and you did. And so applaud yourself and your family, what you're doing. And this is only the beginning of the good things that you're going to see as a result of what you have gone through.
You said that so perfectly. You have some experience with this, don't you?
Have you read my book? No.
Yes, that was a joke. Oh, man.
Oh, no. So anyway, what I'm saying is never make an excuse, because you have, No, I am so thankful that you did share that. And it shows your heart, too. This is the core of this show, your heart and what you experienced. What would you like to say to the audience who may be going through not just something like this, but any type of trauma? Do you have any words of encouragement or anything that you specifically have learned already that you would like to share?
That's a great question, but a tough question. For those that haven't gone through, that aren't in the fire, so to speak, I don't think anything I could say would prepare you for that, because there's nothing that anyone could have said to me that would have prepared me for what we went through. I think for people that are going through it right now, you got to hold on to hope. I mean, without hope, you're not going to make it. You're just not going to make it. You got to surround yourself with your community, whatever that is. They'll help you through it, and just you hold on to hope. I mean, so many prayers went up on my daughter's behalf. And I mean, I would like to even just talk a little bit real quick about how we met.
Absolutely. That's awesome. Please do.
Well, so originally I reached out to you wanting to be on your show, because I'm in the media business, and we had some projects that I wanted to talk about, and so I reached out, and within a couple of months, my daughter was diagnosed, and one day I just get this knock, and it's you knocking on my door, and it totally caught me by surprise. we were home from the hospital, but, you know, Hunter Rose, my daughter was sleeping. My wife was sleeping. It was pretty early in the morning, but I was like, who is this crazy lady knocking on my door?
I remember.
Thank God you did. You came in. We had such a nice chat. You ended up, you know, praying for me. We got down on our knees, and while we were praying, this means so much to me too. You just don't. I can't tell you how much I appreciated you knocking on that door. We got down on our knees and we were praying, and you asked the Lord, you know, give me a vision. You know, at the time I was scared to death, even though, you know, I had the faith. I'm still scared of what we were facing. In that moment when you asked, I received a vision. I mean, it had never happened to me like that before, that vivid and clear. And it was a vision of my daughter at like 20 years old, standing on a stage in front of a podium, sharing her testimony of what she went through. And I held on to that vision all through her treatment. And it was that vision that really got me through some tough times when she's, you know, in the hospital bed screaming at the top of her lungs in so much pain during times where, you know, we didn't know if she was going to make it through this procedure or that treatment. I held on to that vision, and I believed that it was, you know, from God. Not everybody has visions, and that was the first one that I've gotten of that kind, you know, but I really held on to that, and that has meant so much to me. I even worked with what is it called? Like a sketch artist to get this vision out of my head and onto canvas, because it was that beautiful of a vision to me, you know, to see her up there with her long blonde hair and sharing her testimony. I haven't gotten the canvas, the picture yet, but when I do, it is getting framed and going up on the wall, and that sucker's never coming down.
That's incredible. Thank you for sharing that. That really touched my heart. I never forgot that day. I was speaking in the area, and I looked you up on on Google. Google searched you and found you. And there was a reason that we met, and I'm very thankful for that. Thank you, Jay, for such a heartwarming, challenging story. I'm trusting that it will touch hearts today in a way that people who may be going through something similar or just need to share a story of hope, that this will have encouraged them. And I thank you for your passion. That's evident. And it's necessary in the business that you're in. So that is much appreciated.
Thank you for what you do, and you know, keeping the show going and interviewing the inspirational guests and telling these stories that need to be told. And I can't thank you enough.
You have. I appreciate it. Thank you, Jay, and we look forward to new things from you now that you're back in the loop, and also inspirational stories, which we anticipate will be coming. When's launch day?
You know, I'm not quite sure yet.
Okay. Well, we'll be
looking for it. The first episode already aired, and we're trying to get the other two up. But the media website for Hungry Fish is hungryfishmedia.org.
hungryfishmedia.org. Thank you again, Jay. This has been awesome.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
Thank you for listening to Never Ever Give Up Hope, featuring Carol Graham. Did you know that most people succeed because they are determined to? Quitting was never an option. Carol loves your comments and will respond to each one. So please subscribe and review this podcast. A rating of 5 stars would be outstanding and appreciated. Remember, if you are still here, there is always hope.